Hi, everyone, and welcome. It is Sunday, March 20th, 2022. I can't believe time is flying. And it is the Morgellons conference call of the week. It's a rainy, cold day here in western Massachusetts, but I'm glad to be here on the call. And I am the co-host, and I'm honored to be part of this call. Thanks to Richard Kuhns and his protocols and his diet, I have gotten my life back multiple times because reinfestation is a real thing. But be that as it may, we have hope and we have tools at our disposal thanks to Richard and his research and his availability to help people. So I honestly think Richard is he has the most information of anyone I've seen anywhere about Morgellons and other skin parasites, and he's on this call with us every Sunday. He's available for people to email questions, and I'm really grateful. So at this point, I'd like to introduce to everyone Richard Kuhns.
Thank you, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here. We're here every Sunday to provide inspiration because we know it's a difficult task. It's not an easy process. It takes dedication. It takes perseverance. And the rewards are amazing. You get your life back. I want to start with the FDA regulations pertaining to this call and any of our information. The FDA requires me to inform everybody that we are not medical doctors and that before you start the King Diet or accept any of our recommendations, you're to thoroughly discuss them with your medical doctor to make sure they do not interfere with any health problems you're presently experiencing. The AMA and FDA also requires to tell you that this is educational only. We're not trained to diagnose, cure, treat, or mitigate any disease. What we can do is educate, and that's what we do, and we do a good job of it. We educate you how to utilize the King Diet to your advantage, how to clean the organisms out of your skin that are said to be non-existent by the CDC and other experts, but we know it. We feel them. We're here to educate you also how to clean them out of your environment, and how to build health and immune functioning through targeted supplements to do that. Does your book have specific information on how to kill a Caribbean rat mite infestation of your body? My infestation resulted in the loss of 30 pounds of muscle, tracts of egg farms under my skin, and sacs or bubbles at all my joints. There's more. Well, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, there are over 40,000 different kinds of mites. Mites are eight-legged organisms, arachnids. They vary in size. Now, do we know how to kill the Caribbean rat mite? Well, we'd have to, if we looked at each mite, we'd have to have 40,000 different protocols. But fortunately, it's not that complicated. And if you go on Wikipedia, there are many different classifications of mites. Ticks that many of us are very well aware of. They're rather large. Some of them are pretty tiny, but they're more of a larger type of mite. And then we get into smaller mites such as spider mites, snout chiggers, hair follicle mites. I sent out an update this morning about Demodex mites, which many people I think mistakenly think is their problem, because the Demodex mite is generally a very friendly mite. It lives off of the dead skin. It lives in the hair follicles, and it can get out of hand. Like if when you're not taking makeup off of your face and cleaning your face routinely, this is of course for the ladies, and exfoliating your skin, they can accumulate in numbers. I had done an update, I guess a year or so ago, about the Demodex mite, and it generally is not a bad type of mite. All right, they live in unison with human beings. They are a parasite, but they can get out of hand, and when they get out of hand, and for instance, if you're not cleansing your face, could be Rossella's red face, could be an indication of them, or it could be a reason, something that they contribute to. But the interesting thing about the Demodex mite is that unlike the dust mite, which, you know, is in your bedding and so forth, and the problem with the dust mite is the excrement that many of us can be allergic to is a problem. Well, the Demodex mite doesn't produce any excrement, which is interesting. But what happens in large numbers, since they don't create excrement, they explode. So that could be the issue that contributes to some different skin problems. So bottom line is, the mite itself really isn't the issue. It may be the lack of cleansing could be the issue. And I mean, once you've ever used our Nature's Gift products, now this is not a sales pitch, but the Nature's Gift works very much like a pebble in your shoe. The pebble in your shoe, I mean, most everyone weighs at least 100 to maybe 250 pounds, and you get this little pebble in your shoe, and what do you have to do? You can't, I mean, it's troublesome. Here you are, your behavior is dictated by this tiny little pebble in your shoe that might not even weigh more than 2 grams or 3 grams if you weighed it. You've got to take off your shoe and get rid of that pebble. Well, the same is true with liquid carbon, which is what our Nature's Gift is. It's very tiny. It's just 6 angstroms in size. It gets into the cells of your body. It gets into the pores and into the hair follicles and into the cells of the hair follicles. And if there's any organism there, it irritates it, just like the pebble in your shoe. And the organism is forced to leave. So that's how it works, and that's how easy it is. So if at anything at all, the Demodex mite could be a cofactor. But a far easier cofactor to deal with than other cofactors that are involved. Now, when I look at questionnaires, I have probably several thousand questionnaires that I've looked at over the years. Question there is, do you find black or colored specks in your bedding and clothing? 90% find black or colored specks. Now, another indication that mites are involved. Now, well, let me just backtrack a moment. Now, those black specks could be 2 things. One is if you look at it under a loop, giving it some magnification, if you see tightly woven filaments, well, that's not mites, that's Morgellons. But for the most part, you won't see that, and it's an indication of a dead organism like a mite that has come from your skin, and you find them accumulating. Now, another thing that you can often look for is when I was initially infested with mites, if I was standing in the sunshine, I'd see my arms sparkling, my legs sparkling, my whole body sparkling. That was an indication of the eggs, I surmise, that the mites were laying. For me, way back then, it was not a difficult job. In fact, we did last week's video, I believe, was about diatomaceous earth, or if it wasn't last week, it was the week before. We talked about diatomaceous earth as being an underused substance, and oftentimes spreading or spraying and utilizing diatomaceous earth, which is number one. You want to get them out of your environment, because once they're in your environment, they're going to multiply and they're going to reinfect you. So even if you get them out of your skin, you need to get them out of your environment. In fact, I just released the newest version of Win the War of the Mite. It is free. I sent out an email with a link to it so that everybody can read it. The interesting thing that I find is that pretty much getting rid of mites is very similar and very much the same as simply getting rid of Calumbula. And that's the other thing, because when I look at these questionnaires, basically 90% of the people are dealing with mites. And mites are not always the only problem. The problem often can be what mites bring along with them. So, for instance, ticks are a form of mite, as I mentioned earlier, and can bring along Lyme disease. Well, we're not here. This is not a forum for Lyme disease, although the research, the trial research that has been published by Medivahan, Middleveen, sorry, I messed up her name again, Marianne Middleveen, and Strickler report that 90% of the people who have Morgellons are also dealing with Lyme disease. So that's a cofactor. In fact, if you go for treatment of Morgellons, you will go to the doctors listed in Chapter 6 of my book, like Dr. Saverly, Dr. Cornish, Dr. Bransfield, and some others, who will treat it as Lyme disease, and they're what are generally known as Lyme literate medical doctors, LLMDs, utilizing the antibiotic approach, the pharmaceutical type of antibiotic approach. So mites bring other organisms. And so sometimes it's more difficult to figure out, is my problem only mites? Or, because once you get rid of the mites, as happened with me, I got rid of the mites pretty easy, diatomaceous earth, and the mites were pretty much gone. But I was still left with something else that I couldn't figure out what it was back in the beginning. And that was Calumbula. Now, Calumbula are not mites. They are six-legged hexapods. They are not insects either. They used to be classified as insects, but they have their own classification now as being six-legged hexapods. So you can get rid of the mites and still have other things going on, all the while thinking it's all about mites. Well, the good news is you don't necessarily have to diagnose yourself or even have anybody diagnose you to deal with these organisms and issues, because it pretty much seems that the goal is pretty much the same no matter what we're dealing with. So if we're dealing with mites, and they could be rat mites, they could be bird mites. Now, many of us might assume that it's a bird mites actually fly. Well, they don't. They live in bird nests, so they're called, and they live on birds, so they're called bird mites, but they don't fly. All right? So, but oftentimes there may be an infected nest outside a bedroom window, and air currents may blow them in or whatever into the window and get in your house and create an infestation there. Rats can be running, mice can be around in the walls of your house and crawl spaces and things like that, and bring them into your environment as well. So there are many different types of mites. But when we're dealing with all of these organisms, there are basically, and this is what the report points out, basically several specific goals. Number one is get them out of your skin. So this means cleaning them out of your skin, which is important because they can infect not only the skin, but, well, they get into the nasal cavities, they get into your ears, and issues of that nature. So let's go one by one here. Cleaning them out of your skin. You can take hot baths and use different astringents and disinfectants to do the best that you can, or you can step up to using our Nature's Gift products, which work as I explained a little bit before. You put it in the bathtub, and it deep cleans the skin, so the dilution is like 1 to 20,000 parts. 1 part of Nature's Gift to 20,000 parts of water, and you use a disinfectant so that anything that comes out of your skin, so the carbon goes into the pores and into the cells of the pores and into the hair follicles, and it irritates anything is there that brings it out, can bring out immature organisms, can bring out mature organisms, so you want something in the water to disinfect and destroy them as it's brought out. And then you take a shower after you get out of the bath and shower any organisms that might be laying around loose on your skin to get rid of them. You can go the extra step and you can apply essential oils to any area of the skin that you may be particularly bothered by, and then off during the day you can apply creams and lotions as well to help with the skin. Now, nasal cavities, well, that's a big problem because they get into the sinuses, into the nasal cavities, and so what do we use there? Have you ever used Navage, the Navage cleaner, Robin or Mary?
No, but I use Alkalo, which is it's a disinfectant just for your nose and sinuses that you push in and then out. Similar, but I think it's more sterile.
Okay. Well, the Navage is a device that you can purchase, and it circulates liquid that you can add disinfectant to, like you can add some Nature's Gift, a few drops to it, that will circulate it in through one nostril and bring it out the other. And then you can switch around and move it in the other direction as well. So that can help deal with the nose cavities. You can also, saturate cotton and put it up your nose with some astringent that they don't like, and add some Nature's Gift to it as well. For the ears, there's ear drops, and it's interesting. Veterinarians recognize that dogs get mites and animals get mites and use ear drops all the time, but they don't seem to. Ear infections. So they treat people with ear infections because of certain physiological differences in the eustachian tube or whatever. But so there are also ear drops that you can use for your ears with the Nature's Gift in it. It also cleans out earwax as well, which can sometimes be a problem. So there are these different things you do to clean your skin. Now, to clean the environment, that's another process, cleaning the environment, because you need to get them out of your environment. What worked for me in the beginning was dusting diatomaceous earth everywhere they could land or crawl or be. That worked well. Apparently the type I had wasn't airborne that much. I did see a few flying mites that might be called the red mite, might be what it was. but there are people that report they see them in the air, like almost a cloudiness in the air with these organisms, which I have no idea. If you want identification of a particular mite, you can always send a sample of it, if you can collect a sample, and send it to vetdna.com, vet.dna.com. Go to the site, look up what they require for a sample. It used to be they would only take samples from pets, but I think they've laxed their they will take it from anybody now, even from human skin. But make sure you submit it according to their requirements. But generally, you don't need an identification unless you live in an apartment and you need your landlord to acknowledge that you have an infestation and that he needs to treat it. Now, sometimes you can use a simple bomb. You can go to the grocery store and buy these bombs and set them off in your house, and that can go a long way to destroying them. I did that, and then I went to the diatomaceous earth, and then I discovered ammonia and spraying ammonia, and that basically got rid of mine. So it was hard for me for a long time to understand that mites could be more difficult than that. And through meeting people such as Robin, who had more resistant organisms than I had, instead of invalidating, I began learning. And as time went on, and in my own experience, in Robin's introductory, she had mentioned that she had been reinfected a couple of times. And reinfection is not a bad thing, okay? See, there is no cure to these organisms. They are organisms in the environment, living in the environment, and if you come in contact with them, or for instance, if you put away, as in Robin's case, a box of Christmas ornaments a few years ago and forgot that they were not disinfected and then take them out a couple of years later, well, it's like opening up Pandora's box again, and you are then subject to be reinfected. Or if you take out an article of clothing that you forgot to disinfect and didn't realize it was disinfected from storage. You know, we have a change of seasons. We're now going from fall here in the United States to, from winter to spring. So we're going to be changing our clothes. We're going to be putting away our heavy clothes and getting out our lighter clothes, our lighter coats and things of that nature. And if we were not careful when we put them away, we could get reinfected when we put them on again. And believe me, it only takes about 4 or 5 minutes of putting on an infected a garment before your whole body is infected. It can be that fast. So is it the bite that's reinfecting you? Is it Morgellons that's reinfecting you? Is it Columbella that's reinfected? I don't give a shit. I don't care. You're reinfected. It's starting all over again. And it's going back to the basics. So far we talked about cleaning the skin. So it's always back to the basics. Clean the skin. Then clean the environment. So I talked about using ammonia, using diatomaceous earth. Now, the second time I was reinfected, those things didn't work as well for me. And I discovered, or somebody shared with me, what's in the book is called the triple pesticide. The triple pesticide is not really, it's 3 different ingredients that I call the triple pesticide. It's one ingredient is called exponent. If you go to any of the pest control companies, do your own pest control, do my own pest control, you'll find these things there. So exponent, onslaught, and IGR. Exponent and onslaught come in like an 8 or 10 ounce bottle. IGR is a growth inhibitor. It comes in like a 1 ounce jar, and you mix them together according to the instructions shake it up, only mix as much as you need in one day, and you spray the areas that are infected or where you notice them to disinfect that area. So that definitely was beneficial for me in getting my life back on one of the occasions, once again, to get them out of the environment. Robin has since found that in some cases, and in her case, she needed to go another level with the triple pesticide, and it's a zinc pesticide. In other words, 5 ingredients. So in addition to the 3 I've already given you, what were the other 2 ingredients that you added, Robin?
Oh my gosh. I don't remember that. I can't tell you that offhand. One is it targets springtails specifically.
Sayonara?
Yes, sayonara. And the other one was permethrin, 35%.
Yeah, I think okay. So that became
But I recently talked to a pesticide expert, and they said not to use the not the exponent, but the one that targets mites. Actually, I don't know. I had a mite expert tell me to use the Onslaught, and then I had a pesticide guy tell me that Onslaught just stirs them up, which is why they attack you, and then drives them into the woodwork. So now I'm not sure how to build my pesticide.
Well, I believe what happens if, when I spoke to the pest control people, they say if you spray more frequently than every 11 days, you're going to actually do what you say, make them more aggressive. So they only recommend spraying every 11 days, and then in between using ammonia or something else. So because they can get aggressive.
Right, but even when I do it only 11 days, they're still they're very aggressive.
Right. So there is no actual end of all in this. You need to take it to whatever level is required to get success in getting them out of your environment. So the triple pesticide, the zinc pesticide is another step up. So we're talking about raising the bar, if you want to call it that, raising the bar. Now, we also want to recognize a lot of people have HVAC systems, and they have air conditioning systems in their automobile and ventilation systems, and these organisms get in there as well. So you need to also remember that, because that would be a real big mistake, is not remembering that they're in your HVAC system. So you need to spray it into your circulating systems and turn them on and to clean out the ducts. Some people may get into a professional duct cleaning service and make sure they can add some of these ingredients in the treatment of your ductwork. So now, again, that is not an end to all. So we look at another option, and that is ozone. So many people may need to take a step up to ozone. Now, ozone is not necessarily the end of all either. It can be very, cumbersome. Again, you really need to remember HVAC systems. One ozone unit will treat one that puts out about 7,000 milligrams per hour. Don't even think about buying one for 4,000 milligrams on eBay for $85, you know. Don't even think about it. It's not going to do much. It's a toy. So you need to put out about 7,000 to 10,000 milligrams per hour every 500 square feet. A typical bedroom might be 12 by 12. That's 144 square feet. So it's more than enough for a bedroom, but for a larger room, you may need to have 2 of them, one at either end. You need to do this for 21 days straight. I saw on Facebook, but ozone doesn't work. Well, maybe you don't know how to work ozone. all right? Because unless you're doing it right, it's not going to work. You know, if you're using a toy and if you're not doing it frequently enough, and the best thing is to be able to do the whole house at once. So you need multiple units because, as Robin said earlier, if you're using these sprays, that you can drive them from one place to another. So, okay, you treat one room with ozone, and okay, they escape before they get destroyed to another room, perhaps, to go, you know, under the door or whatever and get out. So it would be best, although not necessarily so, that you would treat the whole house at one time with a lot of ozone units. Most likely you wouldn't have to do that, but that would be the ultimate, all right? Now, you run the unit a half hour on. It needs to be on a timer. You put it a half hour on, 1 hour off, a half hour on, a half hour off, 1 hour on. So it needs to have that length of treatment, and then it's off, and you air out the room. You got to remove pets and birds from the area. You can't be in the area, so it's very limited, but it will work. And many people go the route of ozone, but it is cumbersome. It's a lot of work, and here's the kicker: you need to do it for 21 days straight. 21 days without missing a day. All right? Why? Because that's how long it takes, the gestation period for a mite, for the egg to, from the time it's laid to the time it's hatched, the longest period of time. Other mites, there are many mites that are shorter period of time, but 21 days will handle the longest period of time. 21 days straight. All right, so there are other, if you look in our store, we have other disinfectants. We have a chemical one. It's called Metaclean. You can get something similar to it at Home Depot, but it's a chemical disinfectant. It's one of the more inexpensive ones. You can spray it with a regular sprayer, trigger sprayer. So this would be like to replace the triple pesticide or the zinc pesticide, is to simply use this. Then we have an organic one. It's called Benefect. You can find it, I guess, online, or you can order it through our store. It's thyme-based. It's organic. You can spray your countertops. You can even spray your food with it. It's thyme, T-H-Y-M-E, the same thyme that you put in your food. So, and then we have enzyme. So oftentimes enzyme. So it's a matter of figuring out what's going to work and where they are and get there. Now, that's a challenge sometimes. Where are they coming from? If your house is sick, for instance, if you have a moldy environment, a backed up sewer that has come into your house, well, you might say you've got a sick house, and you probably want to start planning on how to sell it and move away. Now, the organisms, the interesting thing about these organisms is they don't affect everybody the same way. So I love seeing these Facebook posts. Well, I got cured, I just did this, and it cured me. Well, hey, you know, there are many people that can live in the environment and not even need anything to be cured, you know, or minimal. So the people that are in our group are massively infected. They may live with people that are not infected or minimally infected, okay? But so we want to go the whole 9 yards. Now, the next step is that spraying often doesn't do the job because there might not be where the spray hits. So people look at things like fogging. Fogging the cedar side. Well, big waste of time, big waste of money.
Yeah.
See, fog doesn't go everywhere either. It only hits the surface where it comes against. It doesn't go behind the surface necessarily. It'll hit it here, but won't hit it here. So you can fog and fog and fog, and you'll get nowhere except growth. So the next step up is the electrostatic sprayer. They're not cheap, but believe me, they're very effective, very quick, and very fast. And it alone may not be the total answer, but you are the top of the line, and you're gonna get the answer. All right. Now the electrostatic sprayer puts an electronic charge on every particle. A fine mist comes out as a fine mist, like a fog, and every particle is charged with a positive charge. The environment, all of what you see, my shirt, my skin, everything is negatively charged. The back of my hand is negatively charged. The palm of my hand is negatively charged. So when I spray this, the fog actually wraps around and is attracted to the negative charge. So if I spray it, it only hits the palm of my hand with a regular sprayer. If I use an electrostatic spray, it'll go all the way around and it'll cover the back of my hand. So that is the benefit. So if the mite is back here in your furniture, by spraying here, it's going to get hit. It's not haphazard, it's directional. So you can spray under the refrigerator, you can spray behind the refrigerator, and you can do, gee whiz, a whole house in about 5 minutes, just going room to room. It's real fast and very effective. So that is cleaning them out of your environment. So 2 tasks so far. Get them out of your skin, out of your nostrils, out of your ears. Get them out of your body, out of your skin. Get them out of your environment. Go after them. Doesn't matter what kind of mite it is. And the other benefit is that the mites that are airborne, that actually can live on the walls of your house or the ceilings and inside, the electrostatic sprayer, boom, you will knock them right out of the air, and it'll go right on the walls, no haphazard. It's just, you can't miss an area. I remember years and years ago seeing a guy disinfecting his house with a long-handled mop, and he was doing the ceiling and he was doing the walls. I mean, what a job. I had no idea at the point. He was really, I thought, well, this guy's stupid. You know, I don't have to do that. You know, all I got to do is spray ammonia and the diatomaceous earth, and they're gone. You know, later on, I realized that some of these mites are not as tame as mine were. They are airborne, and they're in the air, and they are on the walls, and they are on the ceilings. And so the electrostatic sprayer is the answer, rather than washing the walls down. So now, cleaning the skin, getting them out of your environment. Third is don't feed them. Don't feed them. I mean, hey, they're in your skin, they're in your nostrils, they're in your ears. You are a walking, talking, breathing mite machine. That's what you are. They're using you to multiply as well. All right? So the last thing you want to do is feed them foods they love. Now, unfortunately, many of the foods they love are foods that you also love. But the good news is that many of these foods that you love are not really healthy for you in the beginning, in the first place. Like pastries, sugar-laden foods, sweets, ice creams, all this stuff. Not really necessarily healthy for you, but these organisms love them. So the King diet is what I recommend, and has turned out to be, time and time again, the most powerful, effective diet that kind of puts these things to sleep, reduces their activity. Now, most of our calls are about Morgellons, Columbella, that's springtails, also known as snow fleas, and mites are like secondary, because really from our universe, mites are not really the big issue, although they can be. But what the mites have brought to us, the Columbella and the Morgellons, are not very well understood by the medical science. Of course, the mites are not understood at all by medical science. But the King diet is restrictive, has 3 stages, and you can't go wrong with it. The thing is to make the diet work. Because there are many people who can go on the King diet, as restrictive as it is, and not notice much change. But once they make it work, now what do I mean by making it work? Well, the King diet is, as I said, very restrictive. Coffee is on the King diet, for instance. But not everyone can have coffee and have the diet work. Or maybe they get their coffee at Starbucks and the diet just won't work, simply because Starbucks soaks their coffee beans in oils. And oils, except for butter, real butter, rice bran oil, lard, and tallow from beef, are going to feed these organisms. Or maybe they use diamond salt to flavor their food. Salt is on the diet, but diamond salt has sugar in it, which is not on the diet. So making it work is figuring out exactly what foods, using as a guide, that you can have to make the diet work. And then sometimes these organisms, parasites, their activity is often proportional to the dopamine uptake in your brain. This is a report, it's a research project done a few years ago that is listed in the report and also in my book, How to Get Your Life Back, from Morgellons, chronic Lyme, and other skin parasites, that indicates increased dopamine uptake in the brain actually feeds these organisms and they thrive. And that could keep the diet from kicking in. So there is, well, you know, I used to mention all these medications, a list of 10 medications in the book. And people say, oh, they're antipsychotics. You're giving in to the psychiatric profession. They say it's a mental illness and you should go on these ORAP and these medications. Well, it turns out that these medications that they call antipsychotics also reduce dopamine uptake in the brain. But, hey, throw all that out. Forget about it. Forget about those medications. Our herbalist, because herbs can do the same thing. Our herbalist, Barbara, has come up with an herbal formula. It's called Parasite Stop Herbal Formula that does the same thing. It reduces uptake in the brain of dopamine, and it will allow the diet to kick in. So, hey, forget the medications. You don't need them. Use our Parasite Stop Herbal Formula. It is phenomenal. Phenomenal. 3 capsules a day, and it's not going to replace the diet, but it will certainly make it easier for the diet to kick in, to go to phase 2 of the diet and on to phase 3. So those 3 things are very, very important. Now, the 4th thing is to build health and immune functioning. And this is through targeted supplements. And we've discussed these supplements routinely, multiple vitamins. So minerals, Oh yeah, last week we talked about alkalizing the body. That's what our subject was about last week. And it's amazing how many people are now going out and buying this alkaline water, paying, I don't know, $2.50 for an 8-ounce bottle, drinking that every day. That's silly. We have coral calcium minerals that it's a sachet you put in your water. It gives you a pH of 10.5. You drink your water and get your minerals in bioavailable form all at once. You don't need to drink that alkalizing water. Nothing wrong with it, but heck, that's a lot of money just to alkalize your body when you can drink your water with minerals and accomplish the same result throughout the day. Boosting glutathione. We have also a natural antibiotic, allicin, derived from garlic. You won't find it in Krolic or any of the garlic substitutes, but it replaces, it's powerful. So we won't get into that aspect in the call today, but those 3 things are definitely important. Cleaning them out of your skin, don't stop eating the things they love you to eat and thrive on, and clean them out of your environment. Those 3 things, and then boost your immune functioning and health through targeted supplements. So if we're stepping up our approach to mites, we're cleaning them out of our skin, we're cleaning them out of our environment, we are on the diet that's not going to continue feeding them. We're doing supplements to build health and immune functioning, and more recently, through the foresight of Dr. Luna, who we are connected with in Mexico. He has a cancer clinic there, and he uses a lot of these particular medications, but he has come upon this medication called nitinpyram. And nitinpyram has been very effective. The reports that we get back about people who have used it for, I guess, almost a year, he actually gave away samples because he wanted to see if it would be worth having in the store. And the reports that we've gotten back are incredible as to how beneficial it is to add nitinpyram. Of course, oftentimes when we're dealing with complications from mites or Morgellons, we're dealing with other issues in the body. It could be candida, albicans, and fungal overgrowth, and then lefineron is very beneficial. And Anna just mentioned fenben. We're dealing with complications of intestinal parasites, and I can't actually make this claim, but I get the feeling that people who have actually had parasites in other areas of the body, just not intestinal parasites, but also in the throat and in the head, that the fenben has been effectively used for that as well, but I'm not going to make that claim at fenbenzidol. So we have this tremendous resource where we can get prescription-grade medications, and not through some huckster website, international. You don't know if they're going to send you animal grade or what you're going to pick up at Tractor Supply in terms of ivermectin or something like that. So we're fortunate to have him to work with. And then last is stress management. And that will be discussed in the 3rd segment of our call today. So that kind of wraps up Win the War of the Mite. It's a free book. It's on my site. I'll have the link posted on the video here, so you can go to it and open it up and take advantage of it. It has everything you need from A to Z. Mites are not a real issue when it comes to our approach. I mean, they're real, but you'll get rid of them. You'll get your life back. We have hundreds of people who have succeeded in our, Lyme disease, mites, Morgellons. They're just things that we deal with every day. There's nothing so special anymore. Anything to add to that? Somebody wrote in, Anything to add, Robin?
Well, I am looking at a new product, but I want to wait a while before I want to talk to you about it before I mention it on the show here.
Good.
So,
I appreciate it. Mary, anything to add before we close this segment?
No, good. One question, though. I know you've talked about this, and you just did talk about it, and I didn't have a pen in my hand. The minerals in the alkaline, what's the name of that?
Nature's Gift Ionic Minerals.
Thank
in
you.
the store. We did anybody leave their number in the beginning that wanted to ask a question about mites?
And they were too heavy for me personally. And I'm wanting to know if you could share the weight of the sprayers that are available. I know they're very pricey, and is there a warranty? Or and the thing is that if I call you at the store, then maybe you could possibly share a little bit more, or whatever is convenient. I do appreciate an answer.
I think the sprayer weighs about 6 pounds.
6 pounds? Yeah, that's a little much for me to handle. That's the question, I need help. But
can you have two hands?
Yeah, but I'm not that strong.
Okay. Well, that would be so that's about the weight of the sprayer. And
I'm sorry for interrupting you. You're talking about both sprayers? I know you have 2 sprayers, right?
Yeah, they're about the same weight. About 6.
But
6 pounds. And yeah.
The victory sprayer has a shoulder belt.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Hello? Can you
what
hear
did
me?
you say? Chris?
I'm sorry, you're fading. I can't hear.
The victory sprayer has a shoulder belt on it.
I can't understand.
The victory sprayer has a shoulder belt.
Okay, shoulder belt, victory sprayer. Okay, got it.
That could be beneficial.
And the other thing is, anytime you buy a product from us, we are not the direct distributor. It is important to register your product for future technical support. If there is any problem, anything, your product is registered, the company will replace, or they'll do the repair, or they give you technical support, but the product needs to be registered.
Right.
So it needs to be registered. I see. Aside from your I got it. Okay.
Do not ignore the registration card that comes in the package, because they're the ones that are going to handle the problems or replacement, not us.
I got you about that. But they're both of the sprayers that I understand you're saying are 6 pounds. And I think, Richard, you mentioned on one of the calls that because I had asked about traveling. I haven't done it for a lot of years here since COVID, but you put it in your suitcase. That would make the suitcase really heavy, because I had asked about hotels and things.
It adds 6 pounds, so I would never go to a motel room without one, to tell you the truth.
Really? Yeah. I mean, there's no way of getting around that, right? There's no other sprayer. I mean, there's things online, but. For travel, I mean, you know what I mean, to make it easier, because it's hard enough to travel, period.
I found an electrostatic sprayer online for about maybe $200, and it's small. It only weighs about maybe 3 pounds, but it produces a negative charge, which is useless. It's no different than a regular sprayer. So if you go looking for these things, you might find a cheap one, a small one, but you want to make sure it puts a positive charge on the particles, because I don't even know why they bother putting a negative charge on it. It has no benefit, no advantage. It's no different than just a regular spray bottle. So be cautious.
So if you're traveling, let's say you're going to Mexico, and what you do is you don't fill the reservoir of the sprayer. Don't do anything, just the reservoir, empty reservoir. Ship the reservoir and the product. It will be, let's say you are carrying a gallon of the product.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding. I don't know what's wrong.
Chris is saying to ship the sprayer separately before you go.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, ship it separately. Because there's so many, I have so many issues in this environment, and then it's, I'm in an apartment community. It's a whole story. Everybody has one, right? It's survival here. That's where I am. I'm trying. It's like I really need to get myself together so I can relocate, with my husband here. And as far as the mites are concerned, this is another take. Many people relocate, right? And from what I understand online, people are inundated globally with these issues. So as far as mites, there's no safe place, is there? I mean, you're always, as long as you can be on this planet, you're always going to be subjected to some form of infestation, whether it's mites. Some people are sensitive, some are not. But there's no data about a best place for that has less mites, is there? That's my question.
Well, no. I mean, there isn't even data on how many people are infected or affected by mites. I mean, we're in the dark ages here, so you just want to look for an environment where there's a limited mold. Problem is, when you're moving into a new place, they're going to cover this stuff, and they're not going to probably share it with you. And only if you're there for about 6 months, you're going to find out that maybe they had a backup of the sewer system, or there's a mold behind the walls or in the walls or something like that, or rats in the attic. So, I mean, it's hard. It's a pig in a poke, and just hope that if at all, if you're going to move into an apartment, if at all, to put in the lease that you have 3 months to change your mind, if that's possible. That would be the logical thing to do, instead of getting stuck for a year and then having to get tests done and from vet DNA and then get legal help and fight the landlord.
It's a real, because years ago, I mean, the mites have always been in our environment, but as a kid growing up in the Midwest, we never, mothballs were, in place during the weather change, right? And, but nobody, didn't see, most of the people that I was in contact with didn't have any concerns about, other than moths. That was the thing, mothballs, you know what I'm saying, to keep away the moths. And our woolens, but there was nothing. I mean, it just seems. I wonder if technology has exacerbated some of this.
I think it has more to do with climate change than anything. Mites were really common in Florida and places that were very hot and humid, and then as it got warmer, they moved north and more west.
Climate change, yeah. Because I'm, from Michigan. In Michigan, back in the day, there was,
And there may be other factors in play here with the different pesticides that are being used and glyphosate, the impact and changes in our pheromones and things of that make us more attractive. Or the question is, are we more attractive today to these organisms than we were 50 years ago or 100 years ago? We don't know. We're flying blind. Is it simply because of the internet that we get together and find out that we have these problems? I mean, Robin's going to read an email from someone a little later on that kind of expresses this. We don't know. Is it an internet phenomenon that suddenly we collectively get together and find that there are many of us that have these problems, and without the internet?
Excuse me, Richard, I know that 15 years ago mites did not exist in Massachusetts, and there were no exterminators that even knew how to do anything about them. And as the climate changed and the mites moved north, now there are exterminators that will deal with mites because all of a sudden it's hotter, it's more humid. But, in Florida, they just tent the houses and they get rid of them instantly. Everything's one story. You can't do that to a 3-story, 100-year-old colonial. I mean,
but we're also talking about 15 years ago, would they have been attracted to you or not? We don't know that.
Well, I had Lyme 15 years ago. I knew that I was attractive to parasites all my life.
So
but that has nothing to do with mites being in the Berkshires.
That's another thing. Lyme disease, for instance, back in the 70s, it was new. Nobody knew about it. You were criticized. Right. You went to a doctor, Was it a factor for how long? We don't know, We know it's rampant today, but we don't know back then. There probably been many people died from Lyme disease, and it wasn't even identified or diagnosed.
That's right. And I'm just wondering, too, about in terms of, this is another question, there are cases now of people, with schizophrenia. Can, this affect the brain? Unfortunately, I had friends that had taken their own lives years ago, and I'm just wondering, Ruth, I'll never know, if they had some of these symptoms, but can this affect one's brain?
Okay.
Where, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
we're talking about three things here. We're talking about Morgellons, we're talking about Columbella, and we're talking about mites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We know that Morgellons affects the brain. We know that with Morgellons, bipolar, schizophrenia, and things of this nature become exacerbated. We know that. In fact, if you ask me for my the appendix to the book, which is basically an interview with Dr. Bransfield, who is a psychiatrist, this is a lot of what he deals with. He deals with these issues because Morgellons people are dramatically affected, oftentimes, bipolar and schizophrenia, to the major issues. And then yes. Now, as far as mites go, we don't know about that. I don't know if the mites themselves bring this upon us or not. Okay? Okay, thank you. And
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Who's next? Anybody else had a question about mites?
Yeah, I have a problem of mites getting in my eyes. They actually originally got in my nose, in my ears, and my eyelids. But I was able to get...
Now, we don't really know if it's mites or if it is Morgellons or if it might be Columbella. But basically, cleaning the eyes is oftentimes an issue. Are you using colloidal silver drops?
I did, but it didn't work very well because they are inside the eyelids. They are not on the surface of my eye. They are kind of inside the tissues of eyelids.
Right. So if you use an eye wash glass and you soak your eye in 100% colloidal silver every 20 minutes in 4 days, your eyes will be clear.
I did this for months now, and it doesn't work. I did it for months. I'm washing with, I buy special eye cups, and they are disposable, and I wash them, and I use them, I throw them away, and I use another pair.
What are you putting in your eye? A glass eye wash glass is the best, and you can wash it and reuse it over and over, and you just use plain colloidal silver in it without watering it down, right?
I did it. Yeah, I did that, and no, this didn't help. And I used it for months now. And
so how often?
Every 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have it all the time. Yeah. No, for my kind of mites, it doesn't work. It's different.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Have you used a drop of the Nature's Gift in saline water and eye wash?
Now I'm starting to use that, yeah.
All right, that would be the next step. A drop or two of the Nature's Gift in saline water in an eye cup, and do that. Maybe alternate that with the colloidal silver.
Yeah, I should try that. But they are kind of very deep inside the tissues of my eyelids. They are kind of hidden from exposure.
You know, you can go to an eye doctor. Eye doctors know how to treat mites in eyelids, and they give prescriptions of eye antibiotics that kill the mites.
Yes.
I already accessed several types of antibiotic drops for eyes. I bought it.
No, this is, you can only get with a prescription, and it's not a drop. It's a thick lotion kind of thing that also smothers them.
Go to Chapter 6 about eyes. There are about 6 different things, and it lists a couple of the prescription medications that you want to get.